certainly of what we're doing, we're sitting, and certainly to some extent, we would aspire to the idea that developing mindfulness is going to, well, you see, what you're experiencing now, I'm slowing down, I'm reluctant because this is like, I could easily take this for another 30 minutes, which we don't want to do. I think that one of the expressions, you remember, those of you who get the Dharma Corner that I write, and you remember, did everyone see the little picture that I took at the Forest Refuge of the Buddha? I went out at the sunrise. It's a beautiful statue, and I had to get up and climb up onto the thing in order to take it. But the sunrise there's a sunrise, and so then I have sort of like the back of the Buddha, and then you see the sunrise, right? And so it's a gorgeous photo. I'm not that good a photographer, it always just shocks me when it comes out well. Gee, that was good. But I looked at it and I loved it, and so I wanted to put a little title to it. And so what came to me was one of my favorite expressions, minding mind. I love that. That's the title of a book, by the way. It's an excellent book. Minding mind. I think in a way that's as good a definition of mindfulness as you'll ever hear or read. Mindfulness is actually minding mind. That's what it is. And so, we can break it down to being mindfulness of breathing, or mindfulness of, feelings, mindfulness of the body, feelings, mind, and phenomena, mental phenomena. But anyway, I'll just suggest to you that's a wonderful expression, minding mind. If you are minding mind, that by definition means, just as you said, you're going to be aware of thought. You can't be oblivious to your thoughts if you're minding mind. Now, that one of the problems of mindfulness as it's taught in California, I just say this, I have an issue with it. Too often, mindfulness is the focus of mindfulness is on externals. People say, I went to the grocery store and I was mindful. What does that mean? It gets on my nerves when I hear people say that. Oh yes, I was having a conversation with Beverly and I was really mindful. What does that mean? Because the truth is, if you're mindful, you're looking at the mind itself. So if I were talking to Beverly and I was aware of anxiety in myself, or judging Beverly or myself, that would be an example of mindfulness. But just paying attention to the external is only one half of mindfulness. You're right. It's mindfulness is both watching out and in at the same time. So for sure, Ian gets a gold star here by pointing out that the practice of mindfulness is probably what we're doing here, right? Is probably the one of the primary ways that we begin to watch the thoughts passing, and then the more we are watching the thoughts, certainly then we can begin to see that, well, that was certainly trivial. Right? You can get to then seeing that so many of the thoughts are really. Well, remember I wrote this in one of the little things that I wrote. I said that like I'm walking down the street, and then I'll suddenly I have this idea that I'd like to have well, let's say I'm in the grocery store, but anyway, I see a potato and I think, I'd like to have a baked potato. And for some reason that reminds me of North Dakota. And then North Dakota, that reminds me of a friend of mine who went to North Dakota, and then we went to New York 25 years ago and had a lovely time together walking down the street. If coming from wanting to have a baked potato, how much was there a victor in any of that? It was nothing but association. That's all it was, right? None of that was really directed thought. There was no, really, in other words, one tends to be thought. We don't think we are thought. Thought thinks us rather than we think thought. That's one way of saying it. Or another way of saying it, which is really what when I set all this up, I just feel like I'm losing my audience here. The Buddha said that there are 3 characteristics to reality, to our experience, to our momentary experience. Every moment, 3 things are happening, or there are 3 characteristics, and you all know these. I've said them many times. But the first one is it's impermanent. Whatever is happening is impermanent. It doesn't matter. It's impermanent, right? A thought. How permanent is a thought? Did you ever have a thought that was real permanent? All right. You remember I told you all last week I had this idea that I was never going to be able to. I thought I'm going to focus on breathing for the rest of my life, and I really got a little bit terrified at the idea that, oh my God, I'm stuck with breathing. What an arrogant thought, right? I just like 10 minutes later, I was thinking about lunch, and I thought, so much for worrying about focusing on breathing the rest of my life. So that thought was, it lasted maybe, that was a big one. It might have lasted 15 seconds. So number one, nothing is permanent. A feeling, you don't have a feeling, you don't have a thought. Nothing is permanent. Our body is not permanent. So that's one of the characteristics. And because of that, since we cling to the idea of permanence. I see this over. It's amazing. So if you cling to something that's not that you can't depend on, you're going to suffer. Right? You cannot not. Anything that you are attached to is going to cause you to suffer. Watching, going to a funeral. Oh my goodness. Which I just mentioned, a lot of suffering. Sometimes people think I'm a little bit cold because I'm not weeping and wailing. I'll see you in heaven. I'm not making fun, really. I guess I am, but it's really doesn't occur to me that it's like, come on, let's face facts here. Nothing is permanent. Nothing lasts. If to not attach to that, not to cling to that, is the path to non-suffering. But the third thing is the problem of giving our thoughts authority. Because the third characteristic, that the Buddha said, and this is really the door to liberation, is what he called anatta. There's nobody in there thinking, kids. As long as you're clinging to the idea. So it's very interesting, right, to say, am I still alive, right? So because one would say, and, it's like, if you didn't have that thought, would you be dead? Obviously not. You've lasted a long time. We both have. But the thing that keeps the illusion of self alive is thought. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. That's why we give it authority. Because, who would I be? Who would Victor be? Who would Norman be? If I didn't have this little machine. This is the Wizard of Oz, right? Who's just sitting there. Well, I've got to do this now. I've got to do that now. I'm going to do this. Tomorrow I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And of course, tomorrow will come, and everything that one would do, one will do anyway. It's really true. But and that goes back to the whole thing of the comfort that we find, or the self-soothing. If again, the fear of emptiness, the fear of aloneness, all of these fears that are so profound, and they go back to when we were little, of course. Thinking is the way we have distance from a existential fear of non-existence. It is. And I actually would suggest to you, just to back to what you said, that the more you develop the skill of just witnessing thought, it's a skill. It's just a skill. The more you develop this ability to just be doing that, you're driving in your car, and rather than being lost in thought, driving in your car and say, oh, my God, there she is again. She's just thinking a lot, right? But witnessing it, not trying to destroy it, not trying to push it away, because you cannot do that. It's not skillful. But just to watch it and to witness it and to see this sense of self that so clings to existence. And then that sense of self is going to always be terrified of non-existence. Terrified of it, terrified. Well, who will I be if I don't think? That's really what it says. And so then sitting is an opportunity to be with that and to soften it. And in so doing, we hopefully it becomes less king or queen. The thought becomes less the master, and it as you just gently watch it, and it becomes less and less an authoritarian entity, which is ultimately doesn't even exist. If there was a real person in there, it'd be sad. I mean, because then I would say, oh no, go to it. Build that person up, build Norman up, get him really strong. But if you are really cultivating a delusion, if that's all we're doing is really reinforcing a delusion, an illusion and a delusion, that's not good, kids. It's not good. So that's why the whole thing of giving thoughts authority is maybe just about the most important thing we can do. I mean, to work with. I can't think of anything more important than watching that. To hell with getting security. It's about gaining, a little insecurity. Okay? Thanks.